Hey everyone, welcome back to Edgeverse. Imagine this. You're scrolling through the web, chatting with friends across the globe, but what if I told you that the internet wasn't always this welcoming? Asia went wild with multi-byte systems. ShiftJIS in Japan, Big 5 in Taiwan, GB2312 in China. Sounds good on paper, but it was chaos. A Japanese site would look like nonsense on a Chinese computer. If you've ever wondered why your emoji keyboard has hieroglyphs or how you can read a tweet in Arabic without a hitch, stick around. This story is wild, and it's about 10 minutes of mind-blowing insights. Let's jump in. First off, let's set the scene. The internet didn't just pop up as a global village. It was born in the 1960s from US military and academic projects, like ARPANET. Picture a bunch of American engineers building a network to share resources and survive nuclear threats. They weren't thinking about Mandarin or Arabic. They were all speaking English. So, the whole system was wired that way. At the heart of this was ASCII, the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Sounds boring, right? But this 7-bit code only had room for 128 characters, A to Z, numbers, punctuation. Perfect for English. But if you spoke French with its accents or Japanese with thousands of characters, forget it. Your words turned into gibberish or vanished. It was like the internet saying, speak English or get out. This wasn't some accident. It was the original sin of the digital age, embedding an English bias right into the hardware. This fundamental limitation created significant barriers for global communication. Have you ever felt like tech isn't made for you? That's exactly how billions felt back then. Users in Russia or Greece had to hack their way around it, transliterating words into Latin letters, like privet for hello in Russian. Or they build their own closed systems, like France's Minitel, which handled French accents but couldn't talk to the wider web. It was messy, and it set the stage for the first big war, the Great Encoding Clash. This era of isolated systems highlighted the urgent need for a universal solution, as the internet's potential for global connection was severely hampered by these linguistic divides. The Great Encoding Clash was a pivotal moment, forcing innovators to confront the inherent biases of the internet's foundational design and seek truly inclusive solutions. By the 80s and 90s, people got creative with that extra 8th bit in computer bytes, creating national encodings. Europe had ISO 8859 variants, one for Western languages, another for Cyrillic. Asia went wild with multi-byte systems, ShiftJIS in Japan, Big 5 in Taiwan, GB2312 in China. Sounds good on paper, but it was chaos. A Japanese site would look like nonsense on a Chinese computer. This led to Mojibake, garbled text that broke everything. Emails corrupted, databases failed, websites were unreadable unless you guessed the right encoding from a drop-down menu. Remember those days? It was like the Tower of Babel, but digital. Communication across borders? Nearly impossible. The internet's global dream was fracturing, creating isolated linguistic islands. The fragmentation caused by these incompatible encodings threatened the very idea of a unified global network, making seamless cross-cultural interaction a distant dream. But then came the hero, Unicode. In the late 80s, folks from Apple and Xerox said, enough. They created a universal standard with over 1 million code points, enough for every script on Earth, from Latin to hieroglyphs. It was a peace treaty declaring all languages equal in code, a monumental step towards digital inclusivity. This single standard promised to bridge the linguistic gaps that plagued the early internet. Adopting it, that was another battle. Old systems resisted, files got bigger, migration was pricey. Enter UTF-8, a genius hack by Ken Thompson and Rob Pike in 1992. It kept English efficient with 1 byte but expanded for others, and it was backward compatible with the ASCII. No big rewrites needed. Google jumped on it in the 2000s, and now, over 98% of web pages use UTF-8. Boom, War won. The widespread adoption of UTF-8 was a testament to its elegant design, providing a practical and scalable solution to the encoding crisis. Okay, so now text could be multilingual inside sites. But what about the addresses? That's where the next war erupted, the battle for digital identity. This next phase of the language wars moved beyond content to the very infrastructure of how we navigate the internet. impacting branding and accessibility. The domain name system, or DNS, was ASCII only since 1983. Domains could only use A to Z, numbers, and hyphens. Want a site in Cyrillic like Prehint Dunlop? Tough luck, you had to use Latin letters. This wasn't just annoying, it was a barrier to identity. Businesses in China or the Arab world couldn't brand in their own scripts. It screamed, English rules the web. The inability to use native scripts in domain names was a significant cultural and economic disadvantage, reinforcing the Internet's English-centric origins. The push for internationalized domain names, IDNs, started in the late 90s, driven by Asia and the Middle East. They wanted self-representation. The tech fix? Punycode, which converts Unicode like pi alpha rho delta epsilon iota gamma mu alpha.com into ASCII safe xn-hexajbheg to az3l.com. Browsers handle the pretty version. The network sees the safe one. Brilliant, right? This ingenious solution allowed for the visual diversity of native scripts while maintaining the underlying ASCII compatibility. But oh, the drama. The Internet's old guard, think pioneers like Vint Cerf, resisted, citing complexity and security. Homograph attacks were the big scare. A Cyrillic, looks like Latin, so fake domains like peacewypal.com could phish you. It was a clash of stability versus equality, with debates raging in ICANN and IETF for a decade. The tension between maintaining security and promoting linguistic diversity was a central theme of this battle. Finally, in 2009, ICANN greenlit IDN country codes. By 2010, we had .dot for Egypt, .off for Russia. It was a huge win for inclusivity. Now, you can type fully native addresses. The ASCII fortress fell, but not without a fight. This victory marked a significant shift, allowing nations and cultures to claim their digital space in their own languages, truly globalizing the Internet's address system. With infrastructure sorted, the war moved to platforms. How do we actually use this multilingual web? The next challenge was making the user experience truly inclusive. This transition from foundational encoding to user-facing applications marked a new frontier in the ongoing struggle for linguistic equality online. Early social sites like MySpace and Facebook were English by default. Interfaces in English, databases mangling non-Latin text. But Facebook flipped the script in 2008 with Translate Facebook, crowdsourcing translations from users. Bilingual folks submitted and voted on UI strings, making it fast, free, and culturally spot on. This let Facebook explode globally, hitting hundreds of languages, demonstrating the power of community. Wikipedia did something similar. User-built editions in over 300 languages. It showed bottom-up power, give tools, and communities build, fostering a truly decentralized approach to content creation. Then, the real game changer, machine translation. Early rule-based stuff was laughable, like literal word swaps. Statistical methods in the 2000s improved, using UN docs for patterns. But 2016's neural machine translation? Mind-blowing. Using deep learning from papers like Attention is All You Need, it grasps whole sentences, context, nuance, revolutionizing accuracy. Now, Chrome auto-translates pages, Skype does real-time chat. It's like a functional Babel fish. You write in Spanish, I read in English. Billions access content in their time. Access war, mostly one. The seamless integration of machine translation into everyday tools has democratized access to information, breaking down linguistic barriers for countless users worldwide. But wait, is this the end? Nope. Let's talk future. The battles for linguistic equality on the Internet are far from over, evolving with new technologies. The future holds new complexities and challenges, demanding continued vigilance and innovation to ensure true linguistic inclusivity in the digital realm. The new battles are about preservation and bias. AI needs data to work. High-resource languages like English or Chinese have tons. Big Wikipedias, endless texts. Low-resource ones, indigenous tongues or small dialects risk digital extinction. No data means no translation, no voice recognition. If your language isn't in AI, it's fading in the digital world. What can we do to save them? Governments and nonprofits are racing to collect data, but it's an uphill fight. Meanwhile, the Internet's evolving language itself. Global slang spreads via TikTok, vibe check in every corner. Memes are like new grammar, emojis a universal tone setter. But meanings vary culturally. That folded hands could be prayer or thanks. It's homogenizing yet diversifying language at warp speed, creating new layers of linguistic complexity. And the next frontier? Voice AI and the Metaverse. Siri and Alexa crush standard English, but flop on accents or code switching. If your voice isn't heard, you're out. In metaverses, real-time dubbing might flatten cultures, or biases could exclude non-standard speakers. We're rebuilding the old biases if we're not careful, perpetuating historical inequalities in new digital forms. Wrapping this up, the internet's language wars show it's not neutral. It's a battlefield of power, from ASCII's cage to AI's divides. We've come far, from Mojibake messes to seamless translations, but the fight for true equality continues. These aren't just tech tales. They're about who gets a voice in our global village, and how technology shapes our ability to connect and understand each other across cultures. What do you think? Have you faced language barriers online? Drop a comment below, share your stories, maybe in your native tongue. If this blew your mind, hit like, subscribe for more deep dives into tech history, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Join us again for more explorations into the fascinating intersections of technology, culture, and history. Your engagement helps us continue these important conversations.